Thank you so much, the leadership of House of Faith. So I want to talk about building a meaningful career, to just share with my brothers and sisters a practical guide in terms of the UK job market and also interviews for anybody that's at a particular stage you are looking for a job. So this information applies to whether you're in Zimbabwe or even if you are in the UK as well. It helps, or if you're just interested in coming over to the UK. A bit about me so that you know who is talking to you. I know many people would want to say, okay, so what gives you the credibility or the credentials to talk about any field? So my name is Paguwah. I'm a director at Meaningful Careers, which is an organization that connects employers with exceptional talent across Zimbabwe, in the UK, and in many other countries. I have over 10 years experience in human resources. I've worked in Zimbabwe for companies like African Sun, Econet, KPMG. Now I'm in the UK, I work in the civil service, but I'm also a director in my other times. An interesting fact about me as well, not because I'm so clever, but I've never failed a job interview and I've never worked for an organization that's not a top organization. It's by the grace of God. So I'm just sharing with you my experience from the best practice and some serious and strong organizations. This is me at Meaningful Careers, where we also go in the market here in the UK. We meet employers and recruiters, and we also meet job seekers to just help connect them with the employers. So as you can see on this picture, to the left, those are the services that we offer at Meaningful Careers. We do career advisory. If you're somebody who don't understand how to pursue their career, whether in Zimbabwe or abroad, or if you want support with CV writing, if you want support with job application, interview coaching, mentorship and career coaching, and also English test training for somebody that may want to move to the UK. Then we also have services for businesses. If you are a business, we can offer HR services for you. So that's just about the organization that I'm representing. But what I want to cover today, I want to cover one, why careers matter. Careers, what is a career and why is it important? Number two, what do you need to do before you even apply? Say you want to be an employee, because we cannot all be employers. So some of us are job seekers. So before you even start an application, I want to talk about 5 things that you need to think about. Then your CV and what's popularly known now as ATS. I want to just share in a brief, what is it? How does it work? Then the strategy that you can use to search for jobs, primarily in the UK, but also outside, it still works. Then passing an interview, as well as just career path and action plan. So that's what I will cover in the next 20 minutes or so. So the first question is, why do careers matter? I love this statement. I know you can relate with me with this. It's raising leaders, empowering people, and impacting nations. I know you can relate. The question is to then do what? To lead what, who, and where, right? If you are empowered, or if you want to empower people, how do you do that? If you want to impact nations, how do you even impact the nations? This is all made possible through the careers. Careers, you can either be a business owner, or you can be an employee, or you can be an academic. Those are the 3 main routes or directions that people can take in careers. So careers are important to fulfill your purpose. God gave us talents, gave us skills, right? So we are the stewards of the skills, but how do you even exercise that? You exercise that through your career, through whatever field or area that you are in. So careers allow us to fulfill that purpose, to provide even for our families, and then to be able to even love our neighbor by the services or the products that we offer them. So that's why careers matter. I just wanted to set the scene in terms of why careers matter, regardless of what career you want to pursue. So the 5 things that you need to know if you are somebody who wants to get to the UK. So I will focus maybe on the UK, but this model still applies across. Whether you want to go in the UK or anywhere else, this will still be relevant. So the first thing that you need to ask yourself as far as the UK is concerned, I want to talk about the location and the visa, which is the right to work. Then the professions and the credentials that you do have. What qualifications do you have as an individual? Then the different sectors that are in the UK, then the routes to entry, how do you even enter the UK? Then the documents that you need to prepare from a job seeker's perspective. This model still applies, but I want to primarily focus on the UK, as I know many of us are quite keen to come over to the UK. So the first question is, where in the UK? I know in Zimbabwe it's different. But in the UK, you will find that salaries are different depending on the location. Gara determines how much you are going to earn. So if you are interested in coming to the UK, the first question is, where do I want to go to work? Think about where do you want to work. Higher salaries, of course, Nana, London and other big cities, but also that is the cost of living. It's quite high, the rentals, the bills, and so many other obligations that you have to pay. So you'll find that it's quite expensive. In as much as you may think the salary is higher, but it may also be more expensive for you to go to the big cities. And also if you want to balance in terms of family and many other things, those are the considerations. So you find in London, yes, it's high, but in places like Birmingham or Manchester, is the further you move from London, it's fast in terms of growing of the hubs. They are now trying to decentralize so that people can be based elsewhere other than just London. Then the second element there is your visa. There are different types of visas which determine what you can and what you cannot do. So kana uriwe ukuya uzoshanda as the primary visa holder, you can get a skilled worker visa, you can get a health and care worker visa. You can also come as a student. When you're a student, you can work a few hours per week. There is a limit though, but after graduating, you can be given what they call the graduate visa, which is valid for about 18 months to 2 years. Or after you have stayed in the UK for 6 years continuously on a skilled worker visa, you can still qualify for your not indefinite leave to remain, where you no longer need visa sponsorship. Then there is the security clearance. Then there is also nationality requirements. Certain jobs are open to certain nationals as well. So that's the first question, location. I know this still applies even in Zimbabwe. Think about where you want to work and what are the opportunities there. Is it good for you? Is it good for your family? Then credentials. This is a very important thing. You need to ask yourself, in terms of qualifications, do they translate well in the UK? So the UK structures work, or rather jobs, in professions. So my professions are things like HR, finance, project delivery, digital, etc. These are just professions of different roles, but then they are related and they are common in terms of the skills that they expect you to have. Then you also have professional membership. Each profession will then have its professional body. So for example, HR profession, there is what's called the MCIPD board. In Zimbabwe, there is IPMZ. So it doesn't make sense for you to come to the UK with HR with IPMZ and say, I am a qualified HR person. You need to be able to translate your papers and your qualifications to meet the UK standard. So that's one thing to think about. Each profession has got its own professional memberships. Then they have recognized qualifications as well, based on each profession. So if you have done your degree outside the UK, there is what's called ENIC or ECTIS. So this is what they use to check whether your degree was done in English and if it meets the standards of the UK. So you basically give them copies of your certificates. They check and validate and tell you to say, okay, based on our assessment, you are equivalent of this level in the UK. And then the UK also has its own qualification framework. So every qualification, whether from O level all the way to PhD, they are ranked in what's called the regulated qualifications framework. It ranges from 0 to 8, degree level 6. Then level 7 is master's, level 8, yeah, doctorate. So again, you need to know, even if you're somebody who studies, which is Zimbabwe, and you want to do studies about the UK, or you want to study a qualification in the UK, check what is the RQF level, because they don't necessarily maybe call all of them diploma, degree. They just say it's an RQF level 6 qualification. Then you know that naturally it's a degree level. Then there is the UK specific experience. Again, if you don't have it, say while we are on a dependent visa, you can still volunteer, do internships or short courses to just bridge the gap so that you understand. Then the different sectors that exist in the UK, you then need to know, even in Zimbabwe, you need to know which field or industry you want to go for. UK, I will classify it into a broadly 4 different sectors. So there is the civil service, which is where you're working for the government. This is a very good sector, although it has minimal visa sponsorship. So, Shandamo, say while we are not dependent wako, this can work more for a dependent because they don't sponsor the visa, but you are open to working if you are a dependent at the UK already. So you'll find that the pension is better, flexibility, and also family support, it's quite there. Then there is what's called the public sector. These are affiliated organizations. For example, on NHS, my schools, my universities as well. Yes, the pay might be lower, but there is a greater sense of purpose. Then you have the private sector, which is where you have most sponsors, and this is the largest kind of employing sector. You have different organizations that can sponsor your visa. There is higher pay, but the job security is quite low on this one. Then there is the NGO sector. It's not as dominant as it is in other countries, but it's also there. You can work for charities, etc. So the key point here is your qualifications, they fit in any of these sectors, but you need to know which sector works best, not just based on salary, but your values and many other things. Then the fourth thing you need to know about the UK, the routes to entry. How do you even enter any of these sectors? It's not one size fits all approach. For civil service and public sector, you can go directly to apply as a civil servant. They also have what they call a fast stream, which is a graduate development scheme for people that want to work in the civil service. You have apprenticeships. I know in Zimbabwe we used to have them quite a lot, but now they are quite big. This applies more, like I said, to anyone and a dependent. Say, well, we are a visa already. You are open to doing all of these. Public sector resourcing, if you want to work as a contractor, or you can be seconded between departments. There is one main portal you can apply, the civil service jobs, if you want to go in the civil service or the public sector. But if you want to go in the private sector and NGOs, you can do what they call direct applications, where you go directly to the different websites. You go by my careers or jobs page, you apply, or you can use job boards like Indeed, Reed, LinkedIn, or you can work with recruitment agencies. But just take note, some are scammers in terms of recruitment agencies. One key thing to note is you don't really have to pay someone to support you with getting a job, unless they are just charging you for different services, not to give you a job. Then networking. There is what's called referrals here, where somebody who is already within an organization can get your CV, pass it to the HR, and give it to the recruiter. It's not nepotism, but it's referral, because they are basing on the trust of somebody that they are already working with. That's another way to break through into the UK market. Even if you're outside Zimbabwe, if you know somebody who is already working at a company which sponsors, I've seen and I've supported many people that have come over this side simply because they were referred by somebody who is already within the organization. Then the fifth thing, which is I think the most important one, whether you're in the UK or not, it's the toolkit. What documents do you have? That's what I just want to touch briefly on in terms of your CV, your interview preparation, and these tools. So the first one is your CV. Remember, a CV is not a summary or a composition of everything that you have done. This is where most of our people miss it in terms of CVs. We think a CV is an opportunity to put everything, but that's not it. There is the structure side of things, but there is also the content. So you need to balance the structure of the CV. It needs to be easy to read, but also in terms of the content, quantify your results so that it's easy for somebody to go through and read through. It needs to be at most maybe 2 pages maximum, and every word in your CV must really earn its place. So get in touch if you want support with CV preparation. But I want to talk about what's an ATS. ATS, I know for many people that want to apply or that have already applied, you might have seen people charging you to say, oh, if you want an ATS compliant CV, etc., pay us this much, and so forth. So what an applicant tracking system is, it's basically a software which reads your CV before a human being does it. Then it filters. So 75% of people's CVs are rejected by that system. So the question is, okay, so how do you then beat it as an individual? Or it say the CV that pass that applicant tracking system stage. You might have the qualifications, you might have the certificates and everything, but if your CV is not made to pass the ATS test, then you will still fail. But any good qualifications and a good CV. So applicant tracking system, because it's a software that scans your CV, you need to match the keywords from the job description, use my clear headings, quantify your achievements, keep it short, really 2 pages maximum, not 5, 6, 7 pages of a CV. Then you can use the UK spelling and professional language if you are applying to the UK, that is. And it's not one size fits all per my CV. A CV differs and depends on the job that you're looking for. So these are the do's and don'ts. Can you your CV to pass the ATS test? Standard fonts. Don't try to be fancy in a font type, in cursive and stuff. Use basic fonts like Calibri, Arial, Times New Roman. It's good enough. Simple formatting. It makes it easy for the software to scan through. The sections need to be clear as well. Spell out things and in full, then you can put acronyms later. Then in terms of what affects the chances of you passing in terms of an ATS test is if you put fancy graphics, logos, pictures and so forth, they don't really help. Tables, Headers, footers, creative fonts, unusual headings like my journey or images and so forth. Sometimes they minimize your chances. Then you fail to pass the ATS test. So keep it simple such that a system can just scan through your CV. Then once you have done your CV, or say you have been called for an interview, preparing and passing your interview is the next big thing. There is what's called the STAR method. The simple point here is, STAR method is to help you do storytelling. Guess what? One of the greatest storytellers ever, who is Jesus Christ, used stories in the Bible. You know, when we have all those parables, and many times when Jesus spoke, he used stories. Why? Because stories sit in the mind more, and people can capture and retain information. So the same applies to you can wind up interview. If you want to pass, there is what's called the STAR model, where you start by talking about the situation. What was it all about? Then the task, what were you supposed to do in that situation? Give them something about your action. What did you do? This is where you must focus more on. Your actions are then what matter, and then the result needs to be positive. So again, if you're asked about a question, to explain when you did something or when you found a situation to be difficult, remember, situation, set the scene. Task, what were you supposed to do? Actions, then the results. Then there are other preparation checklists that we can always go through, like researching the company, preparing your examples. You need to go to the interview prepared. You don't appear for any interview. You prepare, then attend to deliver an interview. Then you should know your CV. Some recruiters just go through your CV. Manje kana wanga washandisa artificial intelligence to just generate, and you cannot explain it. You can imagine the drama when the interview then starts. So it's good to use technology, but it's also key to understand your CV. Then once you have done the interview, there's what we call mapping your career path. You want to get into different jobs, different roles at different levels, like I said. If you want to go for an entry-level job, this is where you're talking about maybe graduate, a trainee, a junior, or apprenticeship. You need to volunteer for projects so that you can share your knowledge. But if you want to go for mid-level, then build your network. Remember the referrals that I spoke about, having mentors, having peers, they open the doors to opportunities that you didn't know exist. Many people struggle to find jobs because they just don't have the right network. Then if you want to go for senior level, you need to keep learning, really, certifications and qualifications. Then if you are at a leadership stage, now you need to know where you want to be in a set number of years. So those are the next steps in terms of, once you have done everything that I've mentioned, be clear in terms of the direction. Which sector do you want to go for? The location and the value that you bring. Then you build your toolkit, all the documentation that I've mentioned. Then your job search. Remember the different platforms where you can find jobs that I've already spoken about. You need to know this. Then preparing for your interview. Again, this is one way of getting ready for you to then maximize the chances of success for you. So that's it really in terms of what I just wanted to share. This was just a high-level introduction, but we can set maybe a separate meeting on another day so that I don't hold you at ransom to take much more of your time to go through. If you need any support really in terms of career advisory, or if you want support in terms of CV writing or job application, you want to apply in the UK, there are a lot of ways and there are a lot of documents that they require. Not the same as what they would require in Zimbabwe. If you want interview coaching, if you want mentorship in terms of careers as well, reach out. If you want support in terms of English test training, I'm here to help as well. So I hope this helps, and happy to take any questions, but if not, happy to hand over to the chair.
Meaningful careers now. Take the time to take your destiny in your hands now. With Meaningful Careers.